Before you scroll, answer this. Which legendary sing-along anthem earns Neil Diamond close to $1.5 million a year and still plays at ball games across America? And how about this? What prestigious university did one future music legend walk away from to chase a songwriting dream? Think you know the answers? Drop your guesses in the comments below. I'll reveal them in a bit. While you think, let me welcome you to the Versed Masters of Music. I'm Dick Carlson. Today we're following the rise of Neil Diamond from an ambitious Brooklyn kid to the global icon whose timeless hits now power an empire worth over $300 million. And wait till you see the luxury he's living in now in ranch homes, Malibu mansions, and a Broadway musical about his life. But to truly understand the man behind the music, we need to go back to where it all began, because his early life holds the kind of defining moments few ever hear about. Neil Diamond was born on 24th January 1941 in the heart of Brooklyn, New York. His family was working class, with roots tracing back to Jewish immigrants from Poland and Russia. Life in his neighborhood was simple, with tight-knit families, strong traditions, and big dreams packed into small apartments. He went to Erasmus Hall High School, a building that's seen more than its fair share of future stars. His classmates included young Barbra Streisand and chess prodigy Bobby Fischer. It was a place full of quiet talent waiting to be discovered. At age 16, something shifted. Neil picked up his first guitar. That single moment sparked a love that never left. Music became his escape, his obsession, and his identity. Despite that, he followed the path his parents hoped for. He earned a scholarship to New York University, where he studied pre-med. The plan was to become a doctor and make a stable, respectable future. But somewhere between classes and fencing practice, the music kept calling, and just months before graduation, he made the leap. He dropped out of New York University and got headfirst into songwriting. It was a terrifying choice. He'd spent years preparing to become a doctor, but the tug of music was stronger than logic. He later said he felt a mix of fear and freedom, like leaping off a cliff without knowing if there'd be a landing. Then he started working out of the Brill Building, a legendary hub for young songwriters in Manhattan. There he signed with Sunbeam Music, writing songs for $50 a week, which was barely enough to get by. Those early years were lean. He took on odd jobs, lived cheap, and hustled through rejection after rejection. But through it all, Neil Diamond wasn't letting go. The Brill Building was full of dreamers, but Neil's mix of discipline and determination kept him coming back. So, Neil Diamond's first big break didn't come as a singer, but as a songwriter. Around 1965 and 1966, he started writing songs for other artists. One of those songs was a little tune called I'm a Believer, recorded by pop band The Monkees. It shot straight to #1 and became one of the biggest hits of the decade. He also wrote A Little Bit Me, A Little Bit You for them, proving that his pen had serious power, even if his name wasn't on the mic just yet. That success opened doors. Neil soon signed with Bang Records, and not long after with Uni Records. This time, he stepped into the spotlight himself, and what followed was a run of solo hits that would shape his career and pop music itself. Songs like Solitary Man, Cherry Cherry, and Cracklin' Rosie hit the airwaves with a style that felt both fresh and timeless. But in 1969, he released Sweet Caroline, the song that would become his signature. With its unforgettable chorus and feel-good energy, it became a classic. Even now, decades later, it's played at Fenway Park and ball games around the world. And financially, that one song alone still brings in nearly $1.5 million a year in royalties. The same year, Neil married Marcia Murphy, a television production assistant. Together, they had 2 sons and built a life that seemed solid from the outside. By the early 1970s, Neil made another big move. He joined Columbia Records. There, he released the soundtrack to Jonathan Livingston's Seagull, a reflective spiritual project that showed a deeper side to his artistry. This soundtrack earned him a Grammy Award, proving that he wasn't just a hit maker. He was a serious musician, too. As his music climbed the charts, so did his live shows. Neil began touring extensively, packing stadiums and arenas with thousands of fans. His live shows were more than concerts. They were more like events. Audiences dressed up, lights dimmed, and orchestras tuned. Then Neil would step out in glittering shirts, commanding the stage like few others. From Las Vegas to London, his name lit up marquees, and his voice filled every seat. By the end of the 1970s, Neil Diamond wasn't just successful. He was a star. He had sold sold tens of millions of albums, and his music had found its way into every corner of American life. The kid from Brooklyn had become one of the most beloved performers of his generation. By 1980, Neil Diamond was already a household name, but he was about to try something new. That year, he starred in The Jazz Singer, a film remake that blended acting and music. It wasn't a critical hit, but the soundtrack became one of the best-selling albums of his career. Songs like Love on the Rocks and Hello Again showed that his voice still had the power to move millions, not long after he reached a major milestone. In 1984, Neil was officially inducted into the Songwriters Hall of Fame. It was a recognition of the decades of music he had already given to the world. But as his career kept climbing with the decade, his personal life faced some challenges. By 1994, Neil's marriage with Marcia ended in divorce, and it wasn't quiet. The settlement reportedly cost Neil around $150 million, making it one of the largest celebrity divorce payouts of the time. Still, even through heartbreak and headlines, Neil kept going. His music never stopped. Throughout the 80s and into the 90s, he continued touring the world, performing for sold-out crowds who had grown up on his songs. He released new albums regularly, always finding a way to connect, whether through radio, records, or the stage. By the 1990s, Neil Diamond had become more than just a chart-topping artist. He was an icon and a cultural institution. His voice was familiar and his presence was comforting, and his songs had become part of the soundtrack of people's lives. Even as the years passed, Neil Diamond never slowed down. Well into his 60s and 70s, he kept performing, recording, and adding to an already legendary catalog. Over the course of his career, he released an impressive 32 studio albums, with songs that continued to strike a chord across generations. By this time, the numbers spoke for themselves. Neil had sold over 130 million records worldwide, with 49.5 million sold in the United States alone. Songs like America, Love on the Rocks, and Forever in Blue Jeans kept him a favorite on the airwaves and in concert halls. In 2011, he reached two of the most prestigious milestones in music. First, he was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. It was a long-awaited recognition of his impact on popular music. That same year, he received a Kennedy Center honor, joining the ranks of the most celebrated artists in American culture. In 2012, he married Katie McNeil, a former music executive and his manager. Their bond was both personal and professional. She became a grounding force in his later years. With Katie by his side, Neil found renewed balance between his legacy and his private world. By this point, Neil Diamond had built more than a music career. He had quietly built an empire. His annual royalties alone were earning him $8 to $10 million thanks to decades of hit songs still being played, streamed, and loved worldwide. And with that success came the life to match. Neil invested in real estate that reflected his taste for beauty, privacy, and comfort. He purchased a $7.25 million Malibu estate nestled in the hills with ocean views, elegant architecture, and space to breathe. Over the years, he acquired multiple properties with his total real estate holdings valued between $10 and $15 million. Inside his homes, you'd find soft lighting, ocean views, music rooms, and gardens. All these spaces are formed around tranquility and creativity. His lifestyle has been luxurious but never loud. He owns several high-end vehicles, choosing elegance over flash. He owns a Jaguar XJ V Intage models like the 1973 XJ6 and a later black 2012 XJ that reflecting a love for classic British craftsmanship, comfort, and understated style. He also once owned a 1956 Ford Thunderbird convertible, a car he later donated to charity. It was auctioned for around $75,000 in support of Musi Cares. In fact, his Malibu estate is custom-built with garage space for these cars, showing he likes to surround himself with quality and quiet value. Every part of Neil's world, including his homes, his music, even the way he dressed, reflected a man who knew success but never lost his sense of personal style. In 2018, Neil Diamond was gearing up for a huge moment on his 50th anniversary world tour. But just as fans around the world prepared to celebrate 5 decades of his music, Neil shared a difficult news that he had been diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. The condition forced him to retire from live touring, bringing his days on the road to a quiet, heartfelt close. Still, Neil didn't disappear. Even though he left the stage, he never stopped creating. He continued to write music, manage his catalog, and stay involved in how his songs were shared and remembered. His voice, though no longer left on stage, still echoed everywhere. Then came a major move in 2022. Neil sold his entire music catalog, including his master recordings and even unreleased tracks, to Universal Music Group. The deal was reportedly worth over $200 million. It wasn't just a payday, but a strategic move to secure his legacy and ensure that his life's work would be preserved and protected for generations to come. That same year, Neil's story took on a new life on Broadway. The musical A Beautiful Noise debuted, telling his journey through song, heartbreak, success, and redemption. With standing ovations and emotional moments, it introduced Neil's music to younger audiences, while giving longtime fans a fresh way to connect with his life. Today, Neil lives a more private, peaceful life with his wife, Katie. They split time between Malibu and other properties across the U.S. His days are quiet but full, surrounded by art, nature, music, and the enduring power of his own songs. He may no longer take the stage, but Neil Diamond's presence still fills rooms, radios, and hearts all over the world. Neil Diamond stands as one of the rare artists who achieved it all, be it artistic respect, commercial success, cultural staying power, or financial control. From the streets of Brooklyn to the halls of rock and roll royalty, his journey was never handed to him. It was all earned, song by song, stage by stage, and decision by decision. Today, his voice still echoes in stadiums, on playlists, in Broadway theaters, and through millions of memories. And behind all that music is a man who once set down a scalpel for a guitar and turned that choice into a global empire of song. So, what part of Neil Diamond's story surprised you most? Was it his school days with Barbra Streisand? That $200 million catalog deal? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you're curious about the next legend who's reshaped the industry, stick around. Their story's coming up next.